I'm Sam from Cultaholic Wrestling, and this is Graded for Friday Night SmackDown, where I take a look at the show segment by segment and award each little bit of grade from A+ to F. Now, this week is a little bit strange. It's really strong in places, it meanders in others, so without any further ado, we've got an amazing cage match to close out the show, so without any further ado, let's crack on with it. Hit the intro. So we kick things off with Michael Cole welcoming Daniel Bryan to the ring, and Cole just sort of runs over the fact that if Bryan wins his match against Jey Uso tonight, he'll go one-on-one with Roman at Fastlane for the Universal title. Bryan says he's sick of being a little bit of a pushover. He's sick of people just thinking he's going to go along with everything. For instance, the tag match that was supposed to happen at Fastlane with him and Edge taking on Roman and Jey, nobody asked him about that. He didn't really want to do it, so now he's going to make a stand. He says when he saw Edge storm the ring at Chamber and point to the sign, he felt like a failure. And then, of course, he utters the magical word. He says, "It should be me in the main event of Mania, not Edge and not Roman." And out Roman comes. Roman kind of laughs Bryan off. He's like, "You're not an ambitious person. It's just not who you are. You are the little guy. You're the underdog." Roman then demands acknowledgement after Jey beats him tonight, and then Jey tries to jump him only to get dumped to the outside by Bryan. This one gets a B+. It was one of those brilliant promos, the likes that Daniel Bryan is so good at delivering. Those really impassioned promos where you just want to get behind him and you just want to support him. I don't know so much about his chances of getting that match at Mania, but I guess we're going to find out tonight because it's step one on the road to that happening. So next, we've got a whole thing going on with the Street Profits coming down to the ring for a tag match with Zayn and Corbin. And Zayn comes out, makes his entrance, and he's like, "It was a fluke last time, it was a fluke. I'm going to show you, yeah, you're going to lose this week." And then Corbin comes out, and he's like, whoa, I am not your tag team partner. We are not friends. This is not happening. I'm a singles competitor. With that in mind, he then challenges either one of the Profits to a singles match right now, and they sort of weigh it up. And it's going to be Ford versus Corbin. Of course, we're going to see Sammy versus Dawkins afterwards, but, you know, we got to get through Corbin versus Ford first. Now, both guys go back and forth with Ford's agility on full display. You know the type of stuff he does where he's just doing things that any normal person wouldn't be able to do. It's like gravity just doesn't apply to him at times. Corbin does set to work quickly, though, but he keeps kind of walking into reversal and walking into reversal and walking into reversal. And then Sammy causes a little bit of fuss on the outside. Ford gets distracted, gets nailed with an end of days, and Corbin picks up the win. I'm going to give this one a C. It was nice, straightforward, quick, and to the point. So this, of course, means we now have Sammy versus Dawkins, and as Sammy's getting into the ring, he's stood on the apron, he turns to Corbin and his crew and does his usual, "Make sure you're getting all of this." Dawkins charges him off the apron, he hits Corbin. Corbin's like, "You know what? No, I'm done. I'm off. See you later." Dawkins then takes control and Sammy escapes to the floor, and this is just kind of a game of cat and mouse that goes on throughout this entire match. Dawkins hits the silencer and Sammy manages to kick out of it. Sammy explodes Dawkins into the corner and lines up for the haluva kick, but then he looks to the outside where there's a bit of a kerfuffle unfolding. So yeah, there's a bit of commotion surrounding Sammy's camera crew. Ford is just pouring water all over their equipment and Sammy obviously gets distracted. He's like, "No, stop it. You leave them alone." This allows Dawkins to simply crawl up behind him, roll him up into a small package and pick up the win. And then post-bell, Sammy is distraught. Obviously, he's lost the match. Corbin's turned his back on him. Everything's gone wrong. There's been water poured all over the camera equipment. That's going to cost him an arm and a bloody leg. But yeah, he goes up to his crew and he looks at them and then he grabs the photographer and he's like, "Who sent you? Who are you? I don't know who you are." And he accuses him of being a plant sent by the company before attacking him. This one gets a C+, simply because there was slightly more going on here. We had a slight continuation as well of this very interesting thread between Corbin and Zayn. They just got a weird dynamic where Corbin's super duper serious and Zayn's super duper serious, but it's like two different types of super duper serious. It just works. It just works really well. So then we go to Carmela backstage, who's approached by Reggie, who's got a tray with a glass with some lovely booze in it, and she runs him down for siding with Sasha, which is completely understandable. She's paying his wages. He's there to serve her wine. He's not there to go off gallivanting with Sasha Banks. And he's going, "You know, I'm doing this for you, I'm doing this." And she's like, "Just can it." And she slaps the the tray and the drink out of his hands, and she tells him he's fired. Next up we go to Dominik Mysterio versus Chad Gable, and of course we've got Otis and Ray at ringside. Gable takes immediate control, but he's thrown to the floor, and then when he gets back in, the pair are trading holds. There's a bit of mat game going on, and obviously Dominik is not going to win that against Olympic level wrestler Chad Gable. That being said, he doesn't do that bad a job. Dominik is really taken to wrestling. Jesus. Gable's just trying to tear him apart bit by bit until Dominik is finally able to power up and out of it. So yeah, Dom keeps breaking out and Gable's trying to keep him under control. Ultimately, Gable goes for a moonsault only for Dominik to move. Gable doesn't connect with the ring. He manages to land on his feet and roll backwards a little bit, but this is his undoing. There's just a tiny bit more mat work, and then the pair trade pins with Dominik rolling through and getting the 3. Post-bell, Ray jumps Otis to get a little bit of revenge, and he sends him into the announce table before sprinting off. This one gets a B. I bloody love technical wrestling when it's two different types of technical wrestling coming together. Lucha has a good technical side. Gable has that amateur wrestling background, and when you just put them together, it makes this delicious meal. The pair played really well off each other, and as I said, Dominik is just really upping his game here. I did not expect this level of technical wrestling out of him. We then go backstage to Kayla Braxton, who's with Seth Rollins, and she asks him about the Cesaro situation last week. He says he thinks Cesaro is afraid of him and wants to make an example of him and humiliate him, but he won't forget that. And then the camera pulls out to reveal Buddy Murphy, who stood there cross-armed, just kind of staring at Rollins. Now, these two have got a lot going on in their recent histories together, and Murphy says to him, you know, I can help you with that Cesaro situation, and Rollins, not even looking at him, just says, get out of my sight. Next up, we've got Shayna Baszler versus Bianca Belaire, and we've got Nia at ringside, we've got Sasha at ringside, and we've got Reggie at ringside. Match gets going, and Belaire pretty much immediately takes the lead here. She's just evading Shayna as best she can. However, Shayna's able to slow the pace with a couple of strikes to the arm and a running knee. Belaire powers up, but gets thrown to the floor, and then she's kind of rocked a bit by a strike when she gets back in the ring, and then we have a little bit of a breakdown here. So when Bianca went to the outside, I didn't even feel like noting it in my notes as I was going through, so this is why it's mentioned afterwards, but when Bianca went to the outside, Reggie kind of obviously trying to help and stuff, Bianca just shoved Reggie out the way. Now Reggie went absolutely flying, connected with Nia, I believe, and then Nia's like, what are you doing? So Nia comes charging at Reggie, only for Reggie to step out the way, and Nia connects with Sasha, so Sasha is down. So as this is all unfolding on the outside, Belaire is just watching it happen, and she almost gets locked into the Kirifuda. Shayna's pretty much got it in, but she manages to power herself up while locked in the Kirifuda into the KOD position to pick up the win. Post-bell, Bianca says to Sasha, you know, you sort of brought this on yourself by being out here, so, you know, it's not really anything I can do about it. It's nobody's fault but yours. And then she walks off, and then Reggie tries to help Sasha up, and Sasha gets up, slaps him, and tells him once again to stay out of her business. Poor Reggie. I'm going to give this one a B. I love watching Shayna wrestle. I just feel she's got this level of intensity that helps bolster her matches, but the real star here was, of course, Belaire. Just in everything she was doing to evade Shayna at all costs, and then the end with the KOD, Jesus. Belaire was always 2 steps ahead, and I think that's what made her really stand out in this performance. We then go to Jey backstage, who's in Roman's dressing room, sat on the little couch next to Roman in his little chair, and Roman's like, look, you win tonight, the title's safe until WrestleMania. You lose, then fine, whatever, I can handle it. It's okay. It's not ideal, but it's okay. But if you lose, just remember, you're not only embarrassing yourself, but you're embarrassing your entire family. Jey is just becoming more and more unhinged. Like, it feels like that's kind of stopped and eased off and Jey's just fully healed, but there just still seems to be these moments where we see Roman very clearly poisoning him and just putting things into his head and just manipulating him in this way. And Jey's just sat there the entire time just shaking his head's in his hands, he's getting hyped up, and he's trying to get on board with it. His body language is saying that maybe he doesn't want to do it, but he's got to do it. He has to do what he's being told to do. Next up, we go to Murphy versus Cesaro, and down comes Seth Rollins to sit on commentary. Cesaro straight away sets to work dissecting Murphy, but he gets hurled to the outside. Murphy follows through with a big dive and then back in the ring hits a Meteora, but I don't know if I'm supposed to actually care about that, or if I'm supposed to care more about the shot of Seth Rollins at commentary that we keep going back to Oh my God. This was insane. There were just moments where, oh, he's laying him up. Oh, he's going to do something cool here. Cut to Rollins. And then it was like an arbitrary amount of time. They just cut in, cut away. Like, oh, we shouldn't have cut there. Oh, we shouldn't have, we shouldn't be lingering. Picture in picture, guys. Picture in picture exists for this sort of stuff. But eventually, from what I could piece together between all of the shots of Seth Rollins, Cesaro hits a series of uppercuts, and then he hits the swing, and then he locks in the sharpshooter, and then Michael Cole kind of announces that Murphy's tapped before Murphy's actually tapped. Oh, that was awkward. Now, I'm gonna have to just remove production from the equation here, because if production was in the equation, it wouldn't even get an F. It would just be just ungradable. But if we take all that out and we try and be serene and a little bit more zen, then I think I can give it a B-. It was a strong showing here from Cesaro, and Murphy certainly isn't a walk in the park. He's not a pushover. He's been away for a little while, but remember, he has been at the forefront of a lot of storylines. He is a former title holder. You know, he is a bigger deal than a lot of people will allow. It furthers the Cesaro and Rollins situation, which is just bubbling away nicely, but as I said, I just kind of felt a bit bad for everybody involved because of the production side of it. We then go to Reggie backstage, who's got his little suitcase because he's been fired, and he approaches Sasha Banks' dressing room door. He knocks on the door, she opens the door, and she just goes nope and slams it in his face. Shayna and Nia then pop up, and Shayna just starts going in on Reggie. She's like, can you smell that, Nia? He smells of failure. And then Nia's like, whoa, 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 Shayna, he's kind of cute. And then Reggie just looks off into the middle distance like he's having a Vietnam flashback or something, and the only thing missing here was a cartoony gulp sound effect. Next up, we go to the ring for an Apollo Crews promo, and Apollo has two guards with him who are wearing camouflage, and he's carrying a spear, and this has caused significant controversy online already for obvious reasons. But that aside, and taking into account the body of what was said in the promo, Crews introduces the guards as members of the Elite Guard, who used to protect his family back in the day. He says that he used to be made to feel ashamed of his ancestors, but the truth is that his ancestors were some of the most feared and respected warriors in Nigeria. He then turns his attention to Big E, and he runs him down, and he says that he can't wait for him to come back and, you know, make his big return, and he knows he's resting up at home ahead of his big return and all of that stuff. And then he doesn't even challenge, he demands another shot at the IC title. We then really quickly go to Natty and Tamina backstage, who are complaining that they're not in the women's tag title match at Fastlane, and Sonya's just like, Adam felt differently, guys. And then Kayla Braxton's got Jey Uso backstage. She's about to interview him when he's jumped from behind by Daniel Bryan, who's given him a bit of a taste of his own medicine. There's like a mini ding-dong hello segment here as well, with Bayley reading out positive tweets about the show and about herself, and she gets to the third one, and it's like, ding-dong hello is... And then she looks at the camera crew like they've betrayed her and put a bad one in, throws the cards down, walks back through the door, and slams it shut. But now it's time for our main event of the evening, which is Daniel Bryan versus Jey Uso in a steel cage match. And if Daniel Bryan wins, he goes on to face Roman Reigns at Fastlane. Roman comes down to ringside to watch, and Bryan, as soon as that bell goes, explodes onto Uso, but he gets trapped between the ropes and the cage, and Jey is just laying it in hard, and Bryan is suffering in that little position there, trapped, just going backwards and forwards. Even Jey's just pushing him face first into it, and Roman comes up right in front of Bryan and just watches. And then he looks up to Jey and he's like, more. Jey obliges Roman's request, and then he almost escapes out of the door. He gets cut off by Bryan, almost climbs out of the cage straight away as well, but gets cut off by Bryan. Bryan gets back on the front foot and turns the tide a bit, though, sending Jey face first into the cage and getting a little bit of revenge for what he's just done to him. Bryan almost climbs out here, only for Jey to drop him into a tree of woe position and just start targeting the knees. Both men go back and forth a little bit. Bryan is almost up and out. Jey goes after him, manages to pull him down, stood on the top rope for a massive Samoan drop that sends us to break. When we come back, they're both on the top again, and they come down. There's a little bit of back and forth on the top rope itself. That was really nice. After this, Jey's able to hit a splash, and he almost gets out of the door again. Jey is just looking for any way out of this one, just the quickest, easiest victory possible in order to keep Bryan away from the title. Bryan, of course, manages to stop him, but he eats a super kick for his troubles, and then there's no other way to describe it. It just turns into a fight. Like both guys just striking each other as hard as they can, barely able to stay on their feet, just absolutely slugging it out. And then there's one last bid from both guys to make their escape. They're getting dangerously close. Bryan is even up and over and 1 foot out, but then he gets pulled back in. They're both jostling for control on the turnbuckle right up on the top rope, and Bryan's able to grab Jey, lock him into a butterfly position, and throw him backwards off the top. Bryan then rolls the butterfly superplex through into the yes lock, and Jey is just desperately crawling to the ropes where he grabs it, and the referee's just got to look at him and go, sorry mate, it's a cage match. There are no rope breaks. Roman is now panicking on the outside. Heyman doesn't know what to do. Jey is in immense pain. He's trying his hardest, and then ultimately he taps. This gets an A-. Just an absolute brawl of a match. Really well done, really well paced. A lot of excitement. Maybe a little bit too much escape attempts, but you know, like at least they were going over the cage because I hate the door. I'm very much on the side of you should climb out of the cage to win the bloody match because it's a struggle. They use the cage well as a structure and as a weapon, and that's always an important part of any cage match. There's no point putting a match in a cage if it's not going to get utilized properly. You know, once or twice into the sides, but the way these guys were doing it, the way they were climbing all over it, they were using it almost like a jungle gym. It just worked. And of course, this is the right call. Like, Bryan's going to go on to face Roman at Fastlane. I don't think anything's going to come of that. Maybe he'll get inserted into the match. It will become a three-way. That's the best I could think of, but I don't think there's a situation in which Roman and Edge are not in that match. But overall, I think I'm going to give SmackDown a B- this week. It was great in places. It meandered in others. It just felt very chaotic. I know that a big part of that, you know, especially toward the end where we just had all those tiny little bits thrown together, was probably in order to buy time for the cage to be properly lowered and secured in place and everything. And then we go to a whole thing with Corey Graves as they're probably, you know, like doing the last tiny little bits on it. But it just felt like there was so much going on here. More importantly though, I don't really think we've set up Fastlane any more than we had last week. Except, you know, Bryan and Uso in the cage, and that's now solidified that we're getting Bryan versus Roman at Fastlane. It just feels like we didn't really leave that port. But you know, hopefully in the coming weeks we can slowly start to smooth that over and get everything nicely in order and everybody nicely hyped for Fastlane. But anyway, that has been graded for Friday Night SmackDown. I've been Sam from Cultaholic Wrestling. What did you think of the show this week? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, stay safe, and I hope you all are doing well. I'll see you again next time.